Hey guys, Jordan here and welcome back, and this is going to be a tutorial on how to create a realistic gunshot effect. So I'm just going to quickly shut up and play the animation so you can see what you're going to be making in this tutorial, and then I'll be back as soon as it finishes. Right, so that is the animation you will be creating, and for this animation, to do it this way, you do need a gas blowback airsoft gun, but don't leave straight away. You can apply these to like non-gas blowback airsoft guns or any other sort of guns, like just normal prop guns and stuff, and you will look pretty much the same. You just won't get the action of the slide moving back like a real pistol does. Gas blowback airsoft guns, if you can get hold of them, do give you this effect and are really worth looking into if you are intending on using this seriously in a project. I just have it anyway because I actively take part in airsoft. I'm an airsoft skirmisher and take part in it, but it really is a good way to get a realistic sort of gun effect by using a gas blowback airsoft gun. If you don't have one, let me know in the comments and I will do a tutorial on how to make the slide move back as well, even if you do not have a gas blowback gun, if that makes sense. So I will do a tutorial for those of you who do not have access to gas blowback guns, and it will look pretty much the same, but yeah, just let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe and I will do that tutorial. But anyway, enough of that, we're going to move into the main tutorial. So for this tutorial, what you will need is you will need your clip of you shooting your gun, a muzzle flash, a gunshot sound effect, a shell casing, and a shell casing sound, sorry, and a shell casing video. Now if you do not have these, I will include links to a free spinning 9mm bullet shell here on Rhodiopolis, and if you do not have a muzzle flash, you can go to this page here and download whichever one you would like, and go away adverts, I do not want you right now. I personally am going to be using Video Copilot's Action Essentials 2 because it is an absolutely fantastic resource. It's, yes, 500, here we go, 500 pre-keyed high definition elements, and it means you can literally just drag and drop them into your footage and you don't need to bother keying them or removing the background. It works fine, and yeah, they work really well. And if you do not have access to this, then you can simply, well, if you don't have access to this and are not willing to pay $99 for the full version of Video Copilot 2's Action Essentials 2 720p edition, then you can look at getting Rhodiopolis' Shootout Stock Pack, which doesn't contain as many elements, is still a very high quality pack though, and only costs you $19.99. It's up to you, or you can just do it using these free resources that I'm linking here. But anyway, we're just going to get into the tutorial now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new composition from my clip, and I'm just going to drag this clip back until we get, that's a new composition from the composition. Well done, John. Right, we're going to create a new composition from the clip. There we go. And we're just going to get it to the position where I load the gun at the start. There we go. So this is roughly the same position I started with before, and then what we're going to do is we're going to just scrub forward until we find the first gunshot, which should happen about there. There we go. So what I'm now going to do is I'm just going to make my work area just around here, just because it makes it a lot easier and means you don't have to RAM preview the whole thing to be able to view it. And I'm just going to zoom in on this just to make it a lot easier to see what I'm doing and where I'm lining things up. So what you are then going to do, so you're just going to scroll forward, if you can just move frame by frame with these buttons here, and as you see, the moment you want the gunshot to happen, in my case with this gas blowback, it's when you get the hammer. If you can see here, the hammer is actually hitting the back of the gun, which if it was a real gun it would be the back of the shell and it would be the detonator on the bullet, but in this case it's an airsoft gun. But anyway, that doesn't matter. So that instant there, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab your muzzle flash and you're going to want to put it on top of your footage and line it up with that frame there. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to scale it down making sure you hold the shift key so it doesn't scale disproportionately, and I'm just going to scale it down to a sensible sort of size and then move that on your gun like so. Now as you can see, if you put it like that, it looks a bit stupid, it looks a bit far away from the gun for the main muzzle flash. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to move it back slightly, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the ellipse tool, and then I'm going to just simply draw an ellipse over this, and you have to make sure you have your muzzle flash selected when you do this. So if I just back out again, so you click on your muzzle flash, make sure your muzzle flash is selected so you have these boxes around them, hit the ellipse tool, and then you're going to drag it straight over here, and what that's going to do is that is going to make a mask. And what a mask does, as you can see here, is it says add. That means it's only going to show the things inside that circle. Now if I just click off, it looks a bit stupid there with that like big curve cut into it and stuff. So what you're going to want to do is you want to hit this drop down arrow and then change up the feather to sort of smooth out the transition there just a bit. Probably 100 pixels is a little bit far. We'll just stick with 80 pixels, and as you can see there, it makes it look a little bit more blended in. So what we've got now is, if I drag it back, we have a muzzle flash that happens at the point of the gun firing. So if you look, it is only for that exact instant, and then it has a little bit of muzzle smoke that comes out afterwards, makes it a nice, more complete effect. But then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to quickly just adjust this muzzle flash because it doesn't quite match the colour in our scene as it was shot. It looks a bit warm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Effect, Colour Correction, and then I'm just going to go down and add a quick curves onto here. And as I said, it looks a bit red, a bit orangey. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag the red channel down a little bit, just to sort of take that red tint out of it and make it match the scene a little bit better there. And that's pretty much it for adding in just a simple muzzle flash. But to add to the realism, we need to have a shell that comes out of the gun. If you look with this one here, just there, I have a shell. It's a bit blurry. If I just turn motion blur off for this layer, if I can find where the layer is, there we go. So if I just quickly turn motion blur off, you can see in here we have a shell, and I just need to reactivate that. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, from my actual essentials pack, I'm using 45 cal 01. The reason I'm using a 45 cal is just because my pistol is a replica 45 cal pistol, so it makes sense to use it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drag it so that if you just look on the timeline, we go forward, and this is the point in which the shell will be ejected from the gun. As you can see, the ejection port is clear. So what we're going to do, we're going to drag it so the first frame of that is on the first frame of this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to resize it so that it roughly fits the ejection port. And we're also going to use the rotate tool here to rotate it round so it is the right angle. So if I just fit that in there like so, maybe make it a little bit smaller. So once we've got it scaled correctly so it fits in there, that little gap there, what we are going to want to do is, it looks a bit sharp to match the rest of our footage, so what we're going to do is we're going to apply a Gaussian blur to it, as this sort of simulates as best as possible a slightly out of focus effect on it. And I just drag mine to about 10 pixel blurriness. That seems to do fine for me. It seems to make it blend in a lot better for me. And what we're also going to do is we're also going to turn on motion blur. So you have to click it up here to enable motion blur on the layers, and then you have to enable it on the layer there. What that's going to do is that's going to enable motion blur on that layer. Now this is quite an intensive effect, so it may be best for you to edit with it turned off and then turn it on finally for rendering, just because it will slow down your computer quite a lot, because it does have to calculate the motion blur, unlike doing something like a fast blur or something along those lines. So I'm just going to leave that on just because my computer can handle it. And then what you need to do is you then need to hit with this 45 cal clip selected, hit P, and this will allow you to edit the position. So we want to keyframe it in this position here by clicking the little stopwatch. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move on. I usually use about 3 frames for it to reach the top of its cycle out of the gun. Then it will automatically keyframe itself at that new position, and as you can see here, it draws a little line with dots to show where it will be in each frame. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move on a few more frames like so, and then we're going to drag it off the screen, and as you can see, it automatically draws a line to show the path that it's going to take. And if we just scrub through that, you can see it lifts itself up, nicely motion blurred, and then drops itself back into the gun. And then what you can do, if you want to just check to make sure it looks good, you can quickly RAM preview it just to see what it looks like. So here we go with the RAM preview. Now that does appear to be going a little bit slow, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly grab these 2 keyframes, move them in one, and also move this in 1 frame like so, and then just re-RAM preview, and that is starting to look a bit better. Now, because if you imagine, the casing will be moving towards the camera, so what you're also going to have to do is you're also going to have to scale it up as it comes out of the gun. So if you S, you will get access to scale, and then you are going to want to keyframe it, and the first frame at its current percentage, whatever you scaled it to fit it in the gun. And then as soon as you get it off frame, you're probably going to want to scale it up to about 30 times is what I use. And what this is going to do is it's just going to scale it up, so now it appears to get closer to the camera as it flies through the air, and it just really adds to the effect. So if I just quickly play that, as you can see, it looks a lot better like that. So the next bit we need to do is we now need to add some lighting to our scene. So as you can see, we have a muzzle flash coming from our gun, but at the moment it doesn't do anything to our scene. It just appears in there, and as you can imagine, if a muzzle flash does actually go off, it does actually provide a fair amount of light for that brief frame. And as you can see, the way I'm achieving that is by using this adjustment layer here, and in this adjustment layer I am using an exposure and a brightness and contrast. So as you can see here, I've got a brightness and a contrast and an exposure. So if I just go back to the original composition, and then I go to layer, new, adjustment layer. Now an adjustment layer affects all of the layers below it in the composition, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly split this off. So all we need is we just need it for this amount of time across here. In fact, we don't even need it for this long, but I'm just going to cut it to that size now. So what we're going to do is 1 frame before the muzzle flash, we're going to add our, click on the adjustment layer, we're going to add our color correction exposure, and then we're also going to add our color correction, brightness and contrast. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to switch the channels to individual channels, and then what we're going to want to do is, because an explosion, even though we've taken a lot of the red out of it, it is still a yellowy reddy explosion. So what we're going to want to do is I tend to add 1 on the red, 1 on the green, about 0.9 usually, so 0.9 on the green and 0.9 on the blue. And what that does is it sort of gives us a slightly reddish tinged boost in the brightness. Now you can turn the red up to give it a bit more of a reddish tinge like that. In fact, I think I might actually leave it like that. And then what we need to do is we then need to just bump the brightness up just a tad, which will also bring it up a bit brighter, but it also brings it up with the red a bit more. And then what we're going to do is we're going to increase the contrast slightly, so it actually, as you can see, as we bring up the contrast, it sort of makes the brighter parts brighter, which is where the light would be reflecting off, and the darker parts darker. And I tend not to overuse it too much, so I tend to just set it to about 11. And then what we want to do is we just want to keyframe it for this one time that we've got it set. So keyframe your red, your green, your blue, keyframe your brightness and your contrast. So you bring it 1 frame back, and so there we are, we're 1 frame back now, and then you want to bring all of these back to 0. And as you can see now, we get it brighten up for 1 frame and then darken back down. And then on the other side, we want to do the same. So we want to bring all of them back down to 0. Like so. And now, if we just quickly RAM preview this, we have a flash. Now what you may want to do, just to sort of smooth it out slightly, is you may want to just quickly open these up. And then just open all of these up. Can get a bit confusing being as there are so many lines to go over in your composition. I just need to reset the contrast to 0 there. I just realised I forgot. There we go. And then you're going to want to, you can grab all of these keyframes and just drag them another couple of slides over. And then what you can do is you can then highlight them all, and if you hit F9 it does something called easy easing the keyframe. So what that means is instead of it going straight up and then backing straight down, it sort of does it as a curve. It's quite hard to explain. If I do graph editor, you can sort of see there the way it goes up as a curve, whereas if I undo the easy ease and then go into the graph editor, you can see it's very linear there. So that's what easy easing the keyframes does, is it makes it a nice curve and sort of just smooths out the animation a bit. And now what you can see is if we just do that, we get a quick flash of light from the muzzle flash. And then there's only 2 things you need to do now is, well, 1 thing really, you need to add in your sound. So I've got the small gunshot here, and to help line this up, what you can do is if you have the audio layer highlighted, you can double tap L and it will bring you up a waveform. So if we get to the point with the gunshot and then just drag the waveform in like so, and we can line it up with the waveform there, so you line it up with the pointer. And then we also need a shell casing, so we're just going to drop that in as well. Just close them down, double hit L. So as we can see, here's where the shell casing first hits, this exact moment here. So we're going to want to place that just after the shell goes off screen, so about here should do. And now if we quickly RAM preview this, you can see that we get a very realistic gunshot effect. Now you'll find the best settings for this obviously by tweaking. I mean, this is just something I've done in the 10-15 or so minutes that I've done this tutorial for you. So you can produce a lot better results if you just tinker and sort of make it your own, sort it out and stuff like that. But this is the basics for creating a realistic muzzle flash, and as you can see, it does work quite well and looks quite realistic. So anyway guys, thanks for watching my tutorial on how to create realistic muzzle flashes. I hope it helped. Please subscribe, rate and comment, and thank you for watching.